What up, guys? Happy Sunday. Today I'm going to be talking about manic depression, and really I'm going to make this a three-part series. So first part is before manic depression, before medication. Second video will be during, while I'm taking medication, and the third part after medication. So pretty much I'm going to start this video off by telling a story of one of my experiences along this journey, and it starts with me really feeling kind of crazy. Like, it's just wild to even think that I'm making this video right now, because at one point in my life it seemed so overwhelming and overbearing. And one of the things that I realized when it got really bad in terms of my manic depression was when I really stopped getting out of bed. At one point I stopped training martial arts for like a few weeks. I really withdrew from social situations, so I isolated myself a bunch, didn't really call friends or call family. I felt my mood fluctuating so rapidly. I mean, it would feel like I was very, almost like high one second, and you know, the typical lows the next. And what was interesting was that I never really wanted to go and get diagnosed. I thought that was weak. I had this misconception that, you know, if I get diagnosed, and you know, like, what does that mean? Like, I don't want to have a label put on me, blah 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 blah. And ultimately, like, I don't want to get on medication. Like, I don't want to need to take a pill in order to feel normal. Like, why the fuck can't I just feel normal? And it was something that really kind of hit hard for me, because I grew up but I grew up seeing some of my family members who were addicted to drugs or addicted to alcohol, and they needed that in order to cope. And in a very deep way for me, I just found that I didn't want anything to cope, like, with my life. I just, you know, want to eat good, I want to exercise, I want to do everything natural. But at a certain point, I was having many suicidal thoughts. My energy was just like at an all-time low. I was smoking weed a bunch, I was partying on the weekends. I was kind of really doing anything to, not that there's anything wrong with smoking weed a bunch or drinking alcohol occasionally, but for me, I was doing it as a means of escape rather than kind of just relaxing into the moment or like enhancing the moment. You know, I really kind of wanted to get out of the moment and get out of my head and kind of just like blast me off somewhere else. So one day, my sophomore year of college, I get up and I go to counseling services. Counseling didn't really work. Not at this point in my life. See, when I was going to counseling, I started when I was 5 years old, 6 years old, somewhere around then, and went all the way up till like my 19th birthday, 20th birthday, and then I stopped going after my senior year of high school. I kind of just wanted to have a break and wanted to be done with doing all of like that heavy, dense work. So I got out of Sacramento and went to Reno, Nevada to go to school out here. And I wanted to just start fresh, you know, and kind of get away from a lot of the bullshit, a lot of the stuff that has more of that negative, heavier energy to it. Trauma, essentially, is what I'm talking about. And the interesting thing about that I found is that you can never run away from your trauma. It will always find you. And this is the really hard thing to wrap your head around, is that like no matter where you go, no matter what vacation you take or what things you buy or whatever, whoever is in your life at that given time, it will never heal you. I found this out, and I really truly realized this after the first year of college, because when I first got to college, I was like, boom, you know, like got a 4.0 my first semester, got a 4.0 my second semester. I've never been into school. Like, I fucking hated school. I actually did so bad on my standardized testing, but I crushed my first year. And then my second year, I'm just like, man, like, what's going on? I got something that I'm like not dealing with. I mean, I dealt with a lot of things in terms of, you know, like family dynamics that were a little rocky and just very much off and pretty much toxic. I dealt with a lot of that stuff externally, meaning like I told certain people in my life, like, look, I cannot be around you right now. I need to put this relationship on pause in order to kind of figure out my shit and go to school and, you know, figure out what's going on in my head and figure out my life, essentially. Like, not like, oh, I need to figure out my career, but what the hell is going on within my mental state. And I loaded up these boundaries all around myself. And it's crazy because my second year into college, I felt like I just had this huge wall up against like the world. Like, I put boundaries up against everyone and like everything except for a very few select people. Anyways, I'm going on a rant here. Let's get back to counseling my sophomore year. I stopped going after a few weeks just because I wasn't connecting or vibing with my counselor. And I think you reach a certain paradigm within your life if you're actually going through this healing process and this therapeutic process. You reach a certain point where talking's no longer going to do it. You need to discharge that shit. And discharging trauma is a variety, it's a spectrum of elements. It's not just talking about it. I think I did all the talking that I could do. And this is where martial arts came into play. You know, getting in there and hitting pads or doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and really breaking up a lot of heavier, dense shit within my body and my mind in terms of energy, and really discharging that in a lot of ways. Counselor didn't work. I went to see a psychiatrist. I go in there, fill out this paper, and it basically asks, you know, are you feeling low? Are you feeling high? Are you feeling like, basically, what's your emotional level or whatever? And I'm just like, dude, like, the hell do you mean? Like, am I feeling good? I obviously wouldn't be in here if I'm feeling good, you know what I mean? And I only had 20 minutes to see my psychiatrist, and the first time that I went in there, I was diagnosed for generalized anxiety disorder, and he gave me some medication, started taking it. It actually made me feel worse. I don't really know what the medication was called that I was taking. So I went back a few weeks later after that, and I just told him, look, dude, like, my family has a history of manic depression. And I mean, the list goes on, you know, alcoholism and drug addiction and blah, 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 blah. and I'm sure that made their mental state like worse, but I just said I know from experience like what this is, and I looked into it and read it. I'm like, look, I just need you to provide the medication essentially. Like, I know what I have, and this like 20-minute meeting where like you think you're gonna figure out my life and these however many minutes is just not gonna happen. Like, I know what's going on within my own head, and this is what I need. Can you please provide it? Because if you don't, I don't know if I'm gonna make it back again. The shit got real. I just had to keep it real though. Like, I didn't know what else to say, you know what I mean? So I got the medication for manic depression. Now, he didn't put it down as manic depression within my like history, within my medical record, because he just said, you know, if you apply to jobs and they potentially look into your medical record or see like what's going on with you mentally, if you do have any like history of that, they may be a little like sketchy towards it. I don't know if this is true, but this is just something that he talked to me about, and he put it as like general depression or some shit like that, and I was totally fine with it. I'm like, it's all good, like, you know, do what you need to do, it's fine. And I understood it, like, you know, I could see how jobs or a future employer wouldn't want somebody that's like fucking going like up and down constantly, and their emotional like regulation is just like off. And so that day I go home, first person I call is my grandma. Talked to her for a while and just told her everything that was going on with me and how I'm finally getting on this medication, and how I feel, you know, somewhat hopeful about the whole process. I'm not going to go too much into taking medication. That's going to be in a different video. But just for now, to highlight the key factors of why I got on the medication and really chose to stick with it. Man, that sun's so bright. Let me just put it this way. Man. Why I really chose to stick with the medication was because at the time, I didn't see any other option. I tried a lot of natural alternatives. I tried 5-HTP, I tried GABA, I tried St. John's wort, I tried a lot of different things. I've, you know, pursued athletics. I still pursue athletics. I'm still doing martial arts. I teach and train martial arts. I have been doing athletics since I was like 6 years old. So like the whole moving your body thing, I've really have implemented that within my own life to manage my mental state. But when I was 21 years old, 21, I didn't have any other option. At the time, I could not see any other option. The only thing that I could see was the real instant highs, like the smoking weed or drinking alcohol. It got to a point where, like, just to sleep, I remember drinking ZQuil, or like calming me down, I would drink ZQuil, and I just like remember like, damn dude, is this what your life has come to? Like, you're fucking drinking ZQuil right now, and like you're about to go out and party, and you're trying to calm yourself down by like smoking and taking this bullshit that is really just fucking killing you in the long term. Like, it may feel somewhat good in the short term, but like the long investment is just going to be shit. And there comes a point in your journey where you need to take a step back and kind of look at things more objectively. And for me, that point was very much all of the little bullshit coping mechanisms that I had. And there are so many. And just to give you a few, it was, you know, going out and partying, like I said, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, having sex, watching porn, drinking ZQuil, trying to like calm myself down, fucking feeling like Lil Wayne. Like, oh my God. It's just, I took a step back and realized that what I was doing was really killing myself just slowly. And when I finally came to terms with what I was doing in terms of running from this pain that I had within myself towards some significant people that were in my life, I realized that if I keep running from it and if I keep comparing my life to somebody else, that my healing and my recovery was never going to happen. Like, I think a lot of people with manic depression can relate to this. The whole, like, you know, you love your highs but hate your lows. And like, if you take medication and you feel normal, what the fuck is that going to do to your highs? Because your highs, you almost feel like it's crazy. It's you, like, you feel like you're on top of the world one day, and then like, shit, you can't even get out of bed the next. And when I stopped comparing myself to other people, like, oh, I don't want to be like them, and I don't want to take drugs in order to live with myself and to be able to be happy. But the reality was, like, I wasn't happy. And it was a huge thing for me to see, was that, like, dude, you're not doing shit anyways. Like, what's the big fucking deal? Like, you take this medication and it stabilizes you. And by the way, the medication that I took, forgot to mention this, was Lamictal. I believe, like, I pronounced it Lamitrin just because, like, I read it. I'm like, oh, Lamitrin. And one of my other friends was taking it as well. And she told me, no, that's not Lamitrin, it's Lamictal. I don't know. We might both be wrong. But if you have a question, drop it down in the comment section below. And I'll shoot you the exact name for it. And by the way, I was pretty lucky to find a medication that worked for me, not the first time, but the second time. I know some people go a long fucking time trying to find the right medication and the right this and that to work for them, and it's just brutal, and it's, you know, very taxing on the mind and the body. And yeah, I started taking this medication. It didn't cure me, but it got me to the next level and where I needed to be, if that makes sense. I don't think that any medication should be viewed as something for the long term. I think if you are taking medication right now, my advice for you would be to look for ways to get out of it down the road. What things, you have to ask yourself, what might be causing my mental instability? What habits am I participating in? Am I overusing and over consuming the internet, social media? Do you always need to be around your friends in order to be happy? Do you Are you okay with being by yourself? Are you happy with being by yourself? You know, I remember one of my friends talking to me, and she said, you know, you're always in a relationship, Chris. And I said, so what? Like, who cares? And she asked me, like, do you feel good with just being by yourself? I'm like, damn, that's some real shit. And I said, no, like, honestly, not really. And I think this is something to consider. I think that there's so much bullshit in this world that can really distract us from being in tune with ourselves. And the moment you start cutting out things that serves as a wall from letting you be within yourself or be with yourself, really, ultimately, things start to change. I noticed when I was going through some really heavy shit before medication, I was watching a bunch of YouTube videos, which is kind of crazy because I'm over here like talking on a YouTube video, right? Like, hey, watch me. But like I'm saying, you know, I was over here watching a bunch of YouTube videos, like over consuming information. And that's another thing with like the internet. We have so many things at our disposal. We have so much information that we over consume, and it's so heavy on our mind. I think another thing we do is, that I did at least, is buy. You buy products to feel that like little high, like, ooh, I feel like good, I just bought some new shoes, or I bought like a new sweater, or whatever, you know. Another thing, especially guys, and if I could say like one thing that really helped me out the most, it's cutting out porn, dude. Like, I don't know how this is for women, but just speaking as a man, and knowing the before and after effects of cutting out pornography and, you know, just not watching that, it's mind-blowing what it will do for you in terms of social interactions and inner confidence and understanding yourself in more of a real life way, rather than trying to get lost in the void of virtual reality. I want you to see like different patterns that already have been taught. Like, you don't need to go and reinvent the fucking wheel here. Like, the road has already been paved for this type of work. It's just you need to look into it and see it and actually implement it into your own life. That's really it on this video. Again, if you have questions, drop them down in the comment section below, and there will be a part 2 and part 3. What it looks like before medication, during medication, after medication. I hope this helps you, and I know how difficult this process is. I know how many times that I look through like YouTube and I never found shit like anyone talking about this. I tried going online and it was just a bunch of like pharmaceutical companies talking about their different medication, and I hope this gives you a little different perspective. And my intention moving forward is to give you some different avenues to move through, rather than just the conventional one of, here, take this pill and take it for the rest of your life and that's really it, and go to work and blah blah blah. So my intention with these next 2 videos is really providing you with some options. Thank you. Done.